What is up? Welcome back. 2024-25 NBA season previews. My name is Matt Hanifan. I'm with Jiarmani DePena. We are doing the Brooklyn Nets today.
Yes, sir.
Maybe not the most exciting team in the league. They may not even be the best team in the league. They probably won't be the best team in the league. Obviously, we'll talk about it. First, Jiarmani, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. I mean, hey, like we're banging these out, lot less stressful from last year. We can say that much, but it's time. Having time on your side is such a great thing, and time was on the Brooklyn Nets side a few times over the last like 5 to 10 years. But that's something we can dive into. I could explain absolutely, but I'm going to wait because I want you to kind of maybe take the floor a little bit, or if you have a question you want to ask, that's fine. But I'm feeling good, but long story short, I'm feeling better than probably Brooklyn Nets fans right now. So,
I mean, depending on how Brooklyn Nets feel about, or let's just jump in.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
So the Brooklyn Nets last season, they finished 32-50. Ever since they made the Kevin Durant trade, ever since they made the Kyrie trade, they were pretty mediocre, perpetually mediocre in that kind of way. This upcoming offseason, a guy who they got for Kevin Durant, Mikal Bridges, they traded him. And I want to say it was 4 unprotected first-round picks, plus a swap, plus they also got Bogdanovich in the trade. But they traded him away for a lot coming back. And part of that also was they made a separate trade, I believe, with Houston, where they got their own 2025 and 2026 picks back, in addition to like a 2027 Suns pick, a 2029 swap or something like it. They were draft capital for draft capital, but essentially they were getting their own 2 picks back for the next 2 years, which is something that if you are trading a guy like Mikal Bridges, even though he hasn't made an All-Star team, he's still a winning player and a guy who's going to help the Knicks out a lot, and you get just a bombardment of capital back for him. So what were your thoughts about that and everything that transpired there in this offseason with that?
So I'll give the Brooklyn Nets credit bringing in their own first round picks back and getting a bunch and being the team that looks like, hey, these guys have a bunch of first round picks now compared to having another team. Hey, we have a bunch of Brooklyn first round picks now, so them having actual like draft capital in the bank to be able to use as assets is a good thing for them. But in terms of them trading away Mikal Bridges, that's a great move. Whether like to New York, I mean, obviously this is like Celtics bias. It's like, but objectively, great move for New York and a great move for Brooklyn, because New York, obviously, you got another guy. Pretty much they're loading up on wings because you re-sign OG Anunoby and you bring in Bridges, and then now you have the Villanova Knicks out there now. But for Brooklyn, like you had Mikal, I believe, was 27, 28 years old after last season, so it's like their window compared to his prime. It's not adding up. And even then, like he showed flashes when he first got traded to being like that number 1 guy in Brooklyn, but I think that was going to be his ceiling. He was going to be like the best player on a pretty bad team. So, or you send him back to how he was in Phoenix, where he's a great contributor on a fantastic playoff bound team, So I feel for them moving off of Mikal Bridges was the right move, and just have them just fully embrace this rebuild and fully embrace them just getting younger and younger, and just letting those young guys have a chance. Like let Cam Thomas be that guy who's going to take all the shots. He averaged 22.5 points a game last year. I mean, efficiency, I don't know.
On how many shots was that? Let me look this up.
Hey, it don't matter. Somebody's going to have to score over there.
18 field goal attempts a game, 23 on 18.
So again, he may not be the most efficient, but also he's like 23, 24 years old. So he's gonna be just fine taking all those shots. If you have him taking 25 shots a game, let him, But this is what I'm saying. It's like, just embrace the rebuild and don't try to take shortcuts or try to buy your way back into contention, because they tried to do it with the Boston trade all those years ago. They tried it again, bringing in Kyrie and KD, and they ruined a good thing with a bunch of young guys for that Brooklyn team. When like D'Angelo Russell, you had friggin' Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, and Karis LeVert, all these guys. It's like they may not have been a championship-bound team, but it was building a culture. Like when we were talking about Cleveland, like culture building goes a long way. And like just kind of like sideswiping that and kind of like taking Kenny Atkinson, a coach, out of that equation, and those guys and all those aspects, just to be right back to where you were. Now you're with the team that like your highest paid player is Ben Simmons, So I feel at this point it's just take it slow and just don't try to skip any steps, because I feel like Brooklyn in the next couple of years can really start building into something if they allow themselves to, because I feel like they can't get out of their own way sometimes when it came to trying to make those like blockbuster trades. Like there's a time and place for those. And again, in the moment, it looked great, but obviously you saw how both those championship cores like tried to work themselves out, and they didn't, because they didn't get any further any closer to a championship before they made those trades. So
yeah, well, I'm gonna try something really quick.
In fairness, 2021 they probably should have at least made the finals, but that's just me.
No, well, maybe. I mean, they were what, a foot away, if that.
Yeah, one shoe size away from making the NBA finals. So.
Yeah, or at least at the time I think it was the East Finals, but I still think they would have beaten Atlanta.
I think they would have beat Atlanta with that. Like a Kevin Durant led Brooklyn Nets team probably would have beat Atlanta in the conference finals.
Right. But no, I mean, I was trying to pull up a picture. I see, this is how great I am at producing. I don't really know how to do that. But Cooper Flag, that's the guy that they're going to be chasing. And Cam Thomas, if you want to shoot 30 of them a game, go for it. Offense is all yours. You can get 25 points on 27 shots. Like that's going to be a lot of the offense this year. And so that, not just him. I mean, obviously Dorian Finney-Smith's still there. He's on an expiring. Dennis Schroeder's still there. He's on an expiring. Cam Johnson's still there. They just signed Nick Claxton to an extension. So like, there's still some pieces, but at the same time, this isn't a team that I do like. They brought in Jordi Fernandez. He's been an assistant around the league. He's now the head coach of Team Canada. He helped Team Canada to, I think, their first ever medal in a FIBA competition last year. Obviously, Team Canada this past Olympics, a little bit underwhelming, but I do think he's like a respected assistant. And now he's like, I thought he was a respected assistant. I thought he was a really good hire, but this team just isn't in any contention they're not in any position to contend or do anything of that sort. Like not even for like a play-in spot. And so with Cooper Flag coming up this upcoming draft, he's the consensus one right now. Then you get AJ DeBonsa and DeBansa. I don't, pardon. Sorry if I botched your last name, but he's in the 26th class. And so you have two really highly touted guys in addition to some other pieces that you can hopefully draft if you're top. Obviously with those two guys, you're probably you want to be top one. But that's not always how it always shakes out, i.e. the Hawks this last year. And like the Pistons, having the worst record in the league and just getting the 5th pick every year. I don't know how that the league must just hate the Detroit Pistons. They just finished with the worst record all these times. They're getting 4 and 5 outside of the Cade year where they got the number 1 pick. But I am fascinated because I was not hoping, but like I was anticipating, I guess is the right word to say, them leading into trading Finney-Smith, who I said he was on an expiring. He can be a free agent next season, but it's a player option. Bogdanovich is on an expiring. They got Bojan Bogdanovich in the Mikal Bridges trade. He's making $19 million this year. You have Dennis Schroeder, who's making $13 million this year. He's on an expiring. There's some other guys like Zaire Williams is going to be a restricted free agent next year. Cam Thomas is going to be a restricted free agent next year. Day'Ron Sharpe is going to be a restricted free agent next year. Even Ben Simmons, who I can't believe it took us this long to mention, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. Trenton Wofford, unrestricted free agent. Keon Johnson is going to be he has a team option. So they have a lot of guys that, can be free agents or will be free agents at this time next year. So I'm just curious to see how much they lean into just stacking the assets, because I think that's, if you're Sean Marks, that should be the objective. Like, don't just do Mikal Bridges and call it good. Like, I don't think that's going to happen, but they're probably going to wait until January, February to see if any of these guys really build their value up, and then sell as high as you can on some of them. And whether it's second round picks, whether it's first round picks, whether it's a player on a bad contract, and whatever it is, like, you just continue to stack assets on top of each other. And I think that should be Brooklyn's goal, because before they didn't have their own picks, they were kind of in this middling no man's land where it's just like, okay, what do you do with this? And now they actually picked a direction, albeit, yeah, you're losing, and it sucks to watch as a fan, but you're going to be in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. You're going to be in the AJ sweepstakes for the next 2 years, most likely. In addition to some of these other guys, like, it's best to part with your assets while they're expiring or whatnot.
Yeah, I would say
build from there.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say as a fan, like, losing and pretty much with not necessarily no benefit, but losing with like seeing over the horizon, things ain't gonna get better at all. Then yeah, that's soul crushing in a sense. And then but at least this time around, compared to when Boston owned their first round picks, and then you saw them bring pieces in to eventually win themselves a championship.
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Absolutely, exactly. So I would say with the fact of like Brooklyn's case, like, it seems like for them, just like a lot of these guys on expirings, see what they can do when they have, like, pretty much have themselves build their stock up, or have it fall all the way down. I don't know. But in the best case scenario, have these guys build their stock, and then you can trade these guys around the league. Be like what the Washington Wizards were last offseason, where they traded Porzingis and then they traded Gafford and some other guys to contending teams and getting stuff back for them. And be like just do like that, because obviously you're not going to re-sign a bunch of these guys. Like Bogdanovich, if he has himself a good season, because I know he's coming off, I believe, an ACL tear. If he has himself like even a halfway decent season, because I know he's not getting any younger, you can get him for something. Dennis Schroeder, he's been a guy who can average like 13 and 8 on certain years, and he's still relatively young. I know he's in his 30s now, but he's still like he stays in great shape all the time. Like, the dude's a stick, so you have
great
him.
FIBA player too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like you can get something for him. You can get something for all these guys. Finney-Smith, he's a guy who can contribute on a postseason team. Like, pretty much guys outside of Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton led that team in win shares last year. Like, how much value you put in that? But I like Nick Claxton as a player. I think he's a good, he's a good quality center in the NBA, and he's somebody that's like I would look to hang on to for the foreseeable future. And kind of like the same thing with Cam Thomas, because obviously you can kind of hone in the efficiency stuff and everything as he gets older. But even then, even if those guys aren't like your number one, number two in like 5 years, obviously like that's a good like basis to kind of start bringing guys in for like somebody like a Cooper Flag to come in and be like that number one a couple years down the line, So but as of right now, see what you can get with the veteran players, or like hopefully the veteran players kind of step up a little bit, and they kind of not necessarily put on a show, but those guys can like up their value, and then you ship them off at the deadline, get some stuff back, and then tank for Flag in a sense. Let Ben like, even mentioning Ben Simmons, because I know last year is that I had Ben Simmons.
Take your medicine now?
Nah, man. I think I'll be okay, because Ben. I said it for those who missed the Brooklyn Nets talk last year, was at Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons was healthy, he was going to be an all-star. When he was playing games, when I wrote an article about him, I was right in a sense that he was going to be a triple-double threat. And for the course of the season that he did play, he was averaging about like 7, 8, and like 6. So I'm like, I technically wasn't wrong in that aspect. But again, I will acknowledge that. Yeah, triple single. Hey, that's fine. Draymond Green got paid $100 million to do that, so it's fine. But I feel like even with Ben Simmons, like if you can get something out of Ben Simmons and like, even a full healthy season, don't show me these clips of him like training with Chris Brickley. I could care less about that. Let me see how he's doing in the regular season. And I'm like, And even then, if you're not going to try to, even if he does show you something, even if he goes back to 76ers Ben Simmons in a sense, so he's averaging like 15, 8 and 8, and even if he doesn't have the jumper, but like he's taking like, at least he's taking some, then like, all right, cool. But if you're Brooklyn and you're not going to try to keep him, then hopefully he gets back to what he once was, and then you could just trade him and have somebody else, like have him be somebody else's deal. Or if not,
I don't
he
know
leaves
if
free
anyone's
agency.
going to be wanting to pay that price tag for $40 million Ben Simmons, even.
Yeah, he would be a half season rental, like take the MLB route. But I mean, again,
Still.
like either way, it's one more year of Ben Simmons. If he doesn't work out, all right, he's going to sign for like a fraction of what he got from Philadelphia, and he's going to be a role player somewhere. So, but again, like it's just a bunch of like just opportunity riddled throughout this lineup of guys going to have to take shots, and guys are going to have to they're going to have to play 82 games on the season. So like they're going to win some games, they're going to lose a lot more games. But is what you see out of this roster, and then like once you kind of like get to the draft and over the next couple of years, see what you truly have, then you can start truly working towards trying to get back to relevancy.
Yeah. And even then, like I'm just looking at it right now, like Claxton, when he signed a $97 million extension, it's a front-loaded extension. And so that just becomes more tradable as the years go on. Cam Johnson has about a $24 million cap hit this year. It goes down to 21.5 next year, and then it goes back up to around where it's at, exact same amount right now. And so again, we were just talking about what that looks like from the percentage of cap standpoint. It's around 17% right now, and then it dips down to 14 in the next 2 years. Like that's favorable if you're, again, assuming those cap projections stay the same, like those are favorable contracts to take on as an organization if you're getting those with 2 years left, 1 year left, whatever the case is. I don't know when they're going to trade Claxton. I don't think they're going to trade him anytime soon. But if they do decide to do that, it's more of a team friendly structure, and so I think it becomes more tradable if you do again decide to take that route 1-2 years from now, even if you get a Cooper Flag in the draft. But there is going to be plenty of opportunity for some of these guys across this roster. I guess I know you said they're going to win some games. They're going to win at least one game. At prediction, they're going to win at least one game.
Hot take of the year.
But like, where do you see them finishing? Do you see them finishing as the worst team in the East, worst team in the league, like second or third worst? Like, where's your head kind of at?
I would
season.
I would say I have them under 30 wins. I would say like obviously losing Mikal kind of goes like no matter how much stock you put in Mikal Bridges, I think it goes a long way that you lose your primary scorer. Like I think Cam Thomas is gonna just like with the eye, not with the eye test, just looking. If you look at his basketball reference page, outside of like just his counting stats, I think he's gonna be just fine. He's gonna probably average like 25 points a game for a 30-win team. I think this team. I'm gonna say the same thing I did last year. If this team can at least be fun. As a fan, you guys may lose, but at least the team will be fun. If you can be competitive, then at least then as a fan, you're like, okay, I don't need it. It's not, it's not appointment television, but either way, like you're finding your way through the season and hopefully the Cooper Flag. But pretty much it's like you see what you get out of these veteran guys. Let the young guys take a big role and let them see, like, let these guys kind of like find themselves in the NBA. But I would say at the very best for them, then these guys are overachieving and being the 10th seed in the play-in. But again, that is optimism at the wazoo. But in reality, this team is probably around 30-ish wins, and they trade like half their roster come the deadline. Call
30 wins making them into the play-in. That's the problem.
I mean, I guess that's true. That's the East, but no. But either way, I think this team. I think in all seriousness, because since Detroit's gotten better, I can't think of other teams that are like outwardly being like, yeah, these guys are going to suck this year in the
Washington.
East. I think like the fact that you still have Kuzma and Jordan Poole and some of those guys, it's like I think they're better, even though it's kind of like we're trying to compare dog shit to human shit, So
it's crying baby versus crying baby. Like I don't.
I guess that's a better way.
Coughing baby versus whatever phrase you want to use.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I told Jiarmani before I got on here again. This is just the degenerate part of me. I bet Brooklyn under 21.5 wins before the season starts. I right around when it opened, it's now down to 19.5. So 30 wins is awfully bullish.
Yeah, that's
Awfully bullish. I don't think they're trying to win games, especially once February comes around.
I'd say once the trade deadline comes around, they're going to be like, okay, all these guys that have been helping us win, get out. So like I feel like the first half of the season, that's probably where a bulk of their wins are probably going to come from.
Yeah,
so,
I would say like again, probably not going to be a lot of wins to begin with, but I do agree.
I guess that's my hot take for this Brooklyn team, though. They'll win 30 games. I can imagine. I think I forget because I know we were talking about Washington last year. I want to see how bad they played this year, just to see if. All right, hold on. How many wins did they get?
They're another team that stinks.
Yeah, they won 15 games. All right, you know what? I don't know. Actually, never mind. I think the Brooklyn Nets, like in all seriousness, might be the second worst team in the Eastern Conference anyway. Because the thing is, look, with Detroit, like the fact that they brought in like a veteran like Tobias Harris and brought in Tim Hardaway, those guys are gonna be like just veteran presence. Like again, it's like trying to like it's like a bad team versus bad team, But like I feel like they're gonna at least take a bigger leap compared to these other two teams that we're talking about. I'm not saying that these guys are gonna be playoff bound, of course not, but I'm just saying to the point is that like those guys are going to help them win more games than lose in comparison to how they were last year. So
I also have a confession to make. I actually did bet Detroit's over. Again, I'm bringing this. I'm not saying you're bringing it out of it. I'm just bringing it on to myself. Anyway, yeah, I do think Detroit's going to be better. Washington, it's going to be Washington and Detroit last year. It's just Washington and Brooklyn. Like they're just going to be competing to see who loses more games. At least by the end of the season, which I think it can be Brooklyn if I'm being completely honest.
For some reason, I can picture Cooper Flag in a Washington Wizards jersey a lot more than I can picture him in a Brooklyn Nets jersey.
That's probably
you can see the promo material right there.
I do think just from like from a market perspective, not to say that they're going to rig the lottery or anything, but I think like they would probably want him in Brooklyn more than they would want him in Washington.
Yeah, maybe.
Standpoint, even though Brooklyn, it's the Brooklyn Nets too. So maybe I'm misguiding that part. I'm just thinking New York versus Washington. I think New York is slightly more marketable, albeit in Brooklyn. Maybe not.
Just the only thing is just like think about it. It's like I feel like a lot of teams love being like pretty corny when it comes to their promo. Cooper Flag in the state's capital, American flag. That.
Okay.
Stuff like
okay. I don't hate that. I don't hate that twist. That just also reminds me of like the Lakers and the Connect Four with Dalton Connect.
Yeah.
Like that's so genius. I don't know. I'd have to look it up if Tennessee retired number 4 or something. They'd probably like kicking themselves that they didn't think of that when he transferred there. Anyway, did we miss anything? They didn't have any draft picks or anything like that. One thing that I just completely forgot to mention. They just let Lonnie Walker go, and he's now on an Exhibit 10 contract with the Celtics.
Yeah,
don't know why the fuck he signed that, but that's a different question for a different day.
I would say
Smith Jr. He's no longer there.
Okay.
So, I would say for no longer there.
I would say for Lonnie's case, Lonnie is a case of why they need to expand the NBA.
I've said that, yeah.
So somebody as good as Lonnie Walker, 38% 3-point shooter, can't even get on a team like the Brooklyn Nets will let him go. They need more jobs for players in the NBA. I know we're gonna get 2 expansion teams in the next couple of years, but that's the clear if you want to point out a reason why they need it to expand, that's why.
Yeah. I think Markelle Fultz, it's September 27th when we're recording this, and he's still a free agent. And I know he hasn't been the most healthy player, but I'm sitting there like,
well, he's been a solid player with his tenure in Orlando.
It took years for Gary Trent Jr. to sign a minimum. It took years for Tyus Jones to sign a minimum. I know the second apron has a lot to do with this as well, but at the same time, like
there's a lot of talent still like in the
yeah,
NBA that's like
yeah,
just not. They don't have a place to call.
yeah. Man, Chetty Osman's playing overseas now. Like a couple years ago, he was an impact player. Like it's just where it's like I'm like I get it. Some of these, like some of it's like a choice thing. Some of it's like I've said this before about guys on minimum contracts. There's a lot of times where guys sign minimum contracts, and that's just what you are for the rest of your career. It's hard to get out of that.
Yeah,
Unless you are Derrick Jones Jr., you have the type of season where he did last year. And it just also depends on the stages of career that some of these guys are at. But that's just a separate discussion. I just thought I'd mention that. Killian Hayes is also there now. So he's going from a bad team in Detroit to another, Brooklyn.
hey, maybe he could put on a show and then he's on a contending team at the end of the year this year.
I think he's on. I think he was in. I don't know if it was on a 2A or an Exhibit 10, but yeah, no, he's there now. Any. I know we're like all over the place with this, but any parting thoughts?
You know, I'll say this: like Ben Simmons, just stay healthy, please. This is for real. I know you're out on him as well as a lot of other people. If that like, just give me one. I just want to see one season of you away from Philadelphia where you're healthy, when you're absolutely healthy.
Well, yeah.
I want to see what you can do.
I want him to be really good, but at this point, and I'm not making fun of him because of like, sitting out the games and whatnot.
Yeah.
There's people go through like mental health and stuff all the time, and he probably was really injured with that. But it's just like him being a functional player on a court consistently.
Just be on the court for 65 plus games, please.
Yeah, I don't even want to say 55.
Something
50, like something like that. I don't remember. I don't have his.
I don't want your season to end by November or December.
Yeah,
where it's like, come on.
Yeah.
I want him to get it.
I genuinely do want him to get like another good contract elsewhere, even though I don't know if that's a possibility right now.
I mean, shoot, if he goes overseas, he'd be the greatest player of all time.
Yeah, him and he should. I don't know. I can't remember where they're playing, but like Dwight Howard and DeMarcus Cousins are teammates.
Those guys tearing it up over there.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly where it's at. But anyway, this is the Brooklyn Nets preview. I'm sorry we were all over the place.
I mean, that's kind of like what Brooklyn is right now, all over the place. Huh?
I can't believe you still said they're going to win 30 games, but that's a different subject. I appreciate the optimism. Someone has to have it.
Yeah.
This is the Brooklyn Nets NBA season preview. My name is Matt Hanifan. This is Jiarmani DePena. Please go check out all of our 30 NBA previews on the website. We're going to be writing all of them. We're going to be recording all of them for video on the YouTube channel. So please go check that out. VendettaSportsMedia.com. We have NBA. We have NHL. We have MLB. We have NFL. We have college football. We have soccer. We have
gaming.
UFC. We have gaming. We have all that stuff. So please go check that out. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. My name is Matt. This is Jiarmani. Thank you all for watching. See y'all next time.